It dropped. End of music. End of music. Good evening, Internet. You are watching the Non-Pro TV Party Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. No, not necessarily. Agent Carter Recap Show. I'm your host, Frank, joined not only in studio by Katie, let's say, James, Matt. There's probably at least a Matt in there. Maybe John Pope. Who knows who else will be joining us? The usual gang of idiots at Non-Pro. Hi, everybody. Say hi, everybody.
Hello.
Hi. Hello.
Hey. On Non-Pro's TV Party, we do a live Google Plus Hangout series where we geek out about our favorite television shows and invite you all to join along. We're not just recapping TV, we are dwelling on. Actually, this show we're not. We have not actually talked about anything involving TV in quite a while, and this is going to be our one and only Agent Carter recap show for the entire season 2. I think that says a lot about our ability to condense things. I'm very.
It's all of Agent Carter talked about in 45 minutes. Everything you need to know.
Yes, and it's going to be amazing and condensed, and the audio is just going to be all over the place. Also, the video. I feel like there's strange artifacts happening on the camera right now, but you know what? You get what you pay for. You can find us on all your favorite apps and Chromiums, and you could Chromecast us to your big TV right now if you'd like. Interesting. I just found out that Pope will be joining us for this event. I just got that notification. All right, cool. So let's talk about it. This is the second season for Agent Carter. This is the third major Agent Carter focused production. We had that mini short that came out right after, right at the beginning of what movie? I can't remember. I think it was Iron Man 2, Electric Boogaloo, right?
Right.
I would watch the hell out of that movie. And then there's, of course, the first season of Agent Carter, which we reviewed on this program, on this YouTube channel, and then now our second season. So blanket thoughts really quick, loved it, hated it, whatevers. Let's do a quick roundtable. James, you have an opinion?
Overall, I really enjoyed this season. It was a lot of fun. It was really bright and upbeat, and just really kind of had a lot of really interesting dynamics and a lot of stuff I really enjoyed. It was one of my favorite things to tune into week by week. So, yeah, overall, really liked it.
Okay, I have issues with that statement that I'm going to bring up in a bit, but we'll go to the next person. Next person, my little dots on the bottom of the screen or the side, wherever the hell Google puts it now, is Pope. Pope, what did you think?
Well, I think, as much as the location changed, it's about as different as, say, New York to L.A. In that, whereas I feel like kind of hit a little bit of a darker theme this time, I would say, than last time, even though it was, much brighter in California and stuff like that, maybe, a few more casualties, stuff, and, but you don't think so?
Maybe, yeah, I think that's an interesting point, and they may have been a little bit more violent.
And, overall, more carnage, and, to that end, I still enjoyed it, I would say.
All right, we're going to move over to Katie, who is somewhere in the ether.
I'm here.
Hi.
I enjoyed it. It was a lot of fun to watch. I know we'll probably get into it. I thought maybe the last episode was a little lackluster, but overall I thought I loved it. I liked the characters. I'm still a little hung up right now because I only just realized that Jack is Chad Michael Murray.
Yeah, when it hits you after watching hours of it, it's pretty.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I don't know what happened.
Yeah. All right, Matt, what do you think?
I enjoyed it a lot. Had a lot of highs, some lows as well, but overall, I enjoyed it.
Cool, Taylor. I don't know if we can see you right now, but that might be because you're in witness relocation. What did you think?
I really enjoyed it. I love Peggy, and I appreciated that this season kind of tied into S.H.I.E.L.D. and the movies, so it kind of shed some light on how things started with the dark matter and it's relating it back to S.H.I.E.L.D.
All right. I do like how the hyper-intelligent color orange agrees with the show. My blanket thoughts are, I think Agent Carter is one of the stronger properties in the Marvel universe right now. I do think that the writing and the acting is solid. There is just something about the pacing of these mini-seasons that gets me, and I don't quite enjoy it, which is why I'm going to circle back to James. Although maybe we want to talk about this afterwards, a little later after we talk about our favorite characters or the way the characters worked, is the broadcast schedule for this for this season. You mentioned, James, that you watch it every week, or you liked watching. You look forward to it every week. I found it random whether or not it was going to be 1 episode or 2 episodes or no episodes. And I feel like that's what kind of tanked the show for me mostly.
It surprisingly had a pretty regular broadcast schedule. I know it didn't feel like it, but I only think it took 1 week off break, but it did have that random 2-episode pre-finale thing, which was super weird.
It did 2 episodes 3 times.
3 times?
Yes.
First week, and then the second to
premiere
last
week.
week, and then the third to last week also. Sorry.
Yes.
Yeah, okay.
More
You're
and more of our cast members are just becoming colors, but we will deal with that with time. Yeah, I feel like there was at least 3 separate weeks that were doubled up. It's hard for me to say. I typically don't marathon TV shows, but I found that I had to marathon Agent Carter. It made it interesting. It certainly is a different viewing kind of scheme. But when we're going to eventually talk about whether or not this season was successful, I think we can't talk about it without actually looking into whether or not it had a chance of being successful.
I mean, it's tough as far as if you want to look at it by the numbers successful. It's it's the lowest by the numbers Marvel property. Not that it's tough to judge Netflix numbers, but as far as ABC goes, it's a relatively low-rated show. So, and this was no exception. It had worse ratings than the first season of Agent Carter. But despite that, it actually sounds like, and this is the rumors on the bubble, that we might get a 3rd season. So who knows?
All right, fingers crossed. James, you might want to work on your camera for a bit while we quickly talk about my favorite. I think the strongest thing about any of these shows, and specifically of Agent Carter, are the characters, the character interactions. We got some new ones, and we got some returning favorites. I'd like us to focus on the strength. I'd like us, I guess, to go. It's not fair to say let's go around and pick our favorite characters, but maybe our favorite moments or why we like a character. I actually like the evolving relationship between Jarvis and Agent Carter, or Peggy herself. They have kind of a buddy cop relationship. It's sort of semi-professional. He's also her girl Friday, in a way, which I'm all about. Everything that we find as Jarvis's character arcs, in my opinion, are actually mostly about the way Peggy and Jarvis interact with one another, and I really like that. I found it very odd. I don't know if anybody else felt the same way about that particular interaction, or if you want to talk about your own interactions. Anybody want to raise your hand and volunteer? How about you, Matt? Oh, Katie, I guess, who raised?
Oh yes. I'll let Katie go. It looks like she had something to say.
Katie, go.
I loved everything about Jarvis, but he's such a great character. I might have cried a little bit when he was trying to get to his wife. The Jarvises were just so sweet. I love him and Peggy. I didn't think it was weird at all. It mostly made me feel bad at the end when Stark came back, because you realize Peggy treats him like an equal and Stark doesn't, and you kind of felt bad, like he wanted that last moment to see her before he got her to the plane, before he had to go back to butlerdom.
You think that Jarvis is suffering from his position? I think he's like the stereotype servant who actually really appreciates being who he is. I don't know. I think he's okay.
Like you could see how bad he wanted to be, though, out there and be a spy and be Peggy's equal.
That's true. That is very true. Pope?
I think I feel like Jarvis is like the human element to Stark, though. Like, where it's like anything about him that usually the public admires, minus being the genius inventor, is Jarvis, doing things for him. To that end, though, Jarvis, I feel like amongst everyone here is, the favorite character. I, absolutely loved him, and I really feel like, his wife getting shot really brought everything full circle, because, Peggy really laid it out in the one episode about him just kind of following along and enjoying himself and, being along for the ride. but that kind of gave him more of a reason to be there, minus in the beginning just being the driver that Stark pushed on her, or B, just coming along for the fun.
Yeah, I do. I do think that Jarvis has a. I'm going to explain what I mean by Jarvis and Peggy being weird in a bit, but I want to hear a couple more opinions about that. Unless that's it, we want to talk. All right. So Jarvis and Mrs. Jarvis, Mr. and Mrs. Jarvis, right? They're an adorable couple.
Yes.
Yeah.
We all really enjoyed them. I think that they were a lot of fun. I think second only to. Actually, I kind of liked. I forgot the name of their chief.
Zach or Sousa?
Sousa, and I forgot his nurse. They were kind of cute, fine, but a second only to our agent receptionist and our scientist who kind of awkwardly danced around each other the entire season, which was really adorable. I actually do think the Jarvises were a great couple, but what I find odd is, so we've got a situation where Jarvis's wife is put in mortal peril, right? And that's a major character arc for Jarvis, which inherently is a little iffy, right? You put someone's significant other in harm's way so that the character can have some sort of arc. That kind of feels weird, right? But it's a thing that stories do. You have to do that because you only have so many main characters to go around, and one of the ways you could show a main character going through struggles is by making their loved ones in pain. What weirds me out...
101.
Yeah, effectively. And well, there's been a lot of people who've written about and talked about why that is sometimes very uncomfortable. The worst scenario being like the girl in the refrigerator stereotype. But what makes this weird for me is, while I think that Jarvis and Mrs. Jarvis have several big moments about this, it's chiefly Jarvis's story and a little bit more Jarvis and Peggy. It's about Jarvis and Peggy, which is weird, and I just want to do a little game right now, because I think maybe, do you agree with me that what happened to Jarvis's wife has a major impact on Jarvis and Peggy's relationship? We had at least an episode dealing with it, right? When he takes a life or attempts to take a life, and then they're in the desert and they're having their big argument. You think I'm not out of place saying that that being shot in the stomach had a major effect on Peggy Carter, right?
No, I think you're pretty right on there, Frank.
Yeah,
you could tell Jarvis completely changed afterwards, and how he got pretty bloodthirsty, wanting to get revenge.
Right, absolutely. And Jarvis is definitely affected, and I think Peggy is also affected by it.
It's yeah.
And I think that's kind of odd. Imagine for a minute, a little game, a thought experiment. Imagine if Peggy Carter were Phil Coulson, or if it was a male character. If it was two buddy cops bonding or even coming to heads over what happened to one of them's wives. It would feel really uncomfortable. It would feel, something about it would feel off. Why the hell are we following these two main characters and their struggles and tribulations dealing with their wife? Whoops. Aha. I think that would be uncomfortable, but I think with Peggy being the lead character on this, it made the entire thing much more interesting. And I think that's one of the strengths of having different perspectives in characters in these stories, why having a female-led series is interesting, because you could play a little bit with that dynamic, and it doesn't feel nearly as uncomfortable as it would be the other way around, in my opinion. What do you guys think?
The silence.
I'm trying to just parse this into the Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. comparison. So say Coulson and
imagine if Coulson and Fitz had a bunch of scenes, and even that's not quite fair because we've had 3 years to deal with all of them as a family. But imagine if Coulson and Fitz had bonding scenes and episode arcs dealing with something that happened to Simmons, and Simmons isn't really in the episodes.
I feel like that's what we're gonna get for the second half of Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Is dealing with the fallout with the mid-season finale. So we might actually see that.
I think this is. I would argue that this is different, and I would say that's because Mrs. Jarvis is in and of herself a character. She's not a character that feels created to push forward Jarvis and Peggy's relationship. And we see Mrs. Jarvis's worries and concerns for Jarvis and what he's doing, that also kind of her way she feels about it is 100% like a part of the way we're supposed to think of Jarvis in connection to Peggy's relationship. It's different than even, say, the problems we had with, or that I know that you and I, Frank, had with Coulson's, I forget her name.
Coulson and Rosalind?
Rosalind, thank you. With Rosalind, whose perils seemed just immediately to propel him in that episode into the conflict, and it wasn't even brought up again. Like, this was something central for Jarvis and Mrs. Jarvis to deal with separate from Peggy, but it wouldn't make sense if Jarvis in some way didn't lash out and blame Peggy in a way, or if they both didn't bring it upon, like, if you and I get someone else into trouble together, or we do something that we blame ourselves for, we will have a conversation about it. We will be thrust into some sort of conflict between it, even if we should be dealing with it in a different way by dealing with that person directly. It makes sense to me. It's very human, and
Wait,
it's not.
I'm not really sure what doesn't make sense.
Yeah. I liked it. I
think what we're saying is that with the characters in Agent Carter, for various reasons, my feeling is because of the roles of the characters, and including because of the genders of the characters, it's more, the scenes felt more real and more acceptable and more interesting than had it been like two bro cops having an argument in a parked car about what happened to, like, the extra who was playing one of their wives.
I think that depends on how they portray their wife as the extra character.
But we're not going to talk about this hypothetical show I just pitched. Well, I think, Frank, in Bro Cops, the show you just filmed, they did a good job of showing off.
That dynamic was really, really, really strong. I think my biggest central conflict with the show is my love for Sousa and Peggy, but just how lazy that kind of felt towards the end there. Like, I love them. Like, that's all I wanted at the end of season 1 was some Sousa Peggy. And then...
Oh boy, I couldn't have wanted it less at the end. The man was just engaged and in love with someone else, and now he's making out with someone else? That's terrible.
At the end of season 2,
I
it's
felt
like...
gross watching.
Yeah, at the end of season 2, it was like, I don't want this at all. Like, yeah, this is absolutely what I wanted at the end of season 1, and now I'm kind of like, oh, this is kind of lame.
Yeah, it did not feel. I did not feel like there needed to be a relationship between those two characters at all. It felt like it was like, all right, and certainly the breakup scene when his fiancée says, "You really love Peggy," and he's like, "Oh," you're like, really? What does any of this have to? How was any of this established? Yeah, I was not happy with it either. Anybody else have an opinion on that?
I feel like that was. I feel like a lot, like with like a lot of things with the finale, it was very rushed.
Mm-hmm.
I feel like there was a lot of stuff that they probably should have been included in it to add context and to flesh things out more. But maybe because of, I don't know, scheduling or whatever, they just had to like throw out the ending out there. So it's, I mean, like I could see like where they were going with this, and it doesn't seem unnatural how it led to Peggy and Sousa getting together. But the execution was very shaky. So
yeah.
I'm willing to give it a chance, but it wasn't the best way to lead into it.
Yeah. Anybody else have a particular pairing or character or an issue or gripe that they'd like to bring up?
What's it?
No, anything. Yeah, Matt, what were you going to say?
One character I say kind of stole the show a lot for me was Ken Marino's character,
Oh my God! Yes.
Manfredi, the mobster.
Yes.
He was honestly like probably my favorite new addition to the cast, and I'm so happy that he lived in the end.
Uh-huh.
I mean, because like he's despite being like a psychotic mobster, you kind of like want to root for the guy because he's like genuinely nice to Whitney. Like not like okay, I'm just trying to be nice to
Get power.
get power or anything. Like he genuinely cares about her. He's the only one that doesn't mind like the markings on her face.
Hmm.
I love his like arguments with his mother and talking about his girl troubles to his mother.
His poetry. It's a ray of garbage.
It's I hope he comes back in either another series, another short, because he's like one of my favorite villains. Just because like I just love him so much.
I loved how unexpected it was for me in the last episode to like I felt bad for him. He was being so sweet.
Yeah. No, you know how in genre fiction when you watch something and you're like, these couples are not a healthy couple, but like they're an adorable couple? That's what I felt with Whitney and Ken Marino's character, Manfredi. It's just, they're like he's just so accepting of her horrible evilness.
Black stuff inside of her. I swear she's not that evil.
Yeah, that's true, and I like how they tied him into Howard Stark, because Stark is a caricature. It's so hard to divorce this Howard Stark with Tony's dad. They seem like they're two different. It's almost as if like Howard Stark that Dominic Cooper plays is like Tony's grandpa. Like there's no, it's not the same Howard Stark we see in all the Iron Man movies. Whenever he's brought up, it's weird. I have issues with that, but like I like tying him in with the mobsters. I think that's a pretty strong thing. No love for Rose and Aloysius. Aloysius, our scientist and our receptionist.
I mean, I don't know. I'm not terribly fond of like one-sided things like that, you know, because he was all over her and she was just kind of like the whole time.
Oh, I think she'll warm up to him. I don't think he's gonna like worm his way into her heart or anything like that, or anything creepy like that. I think she saw some of his assets, if you know what I mean.
Oh my God.
Wow.
What? I meant that he was a very smart man. He's a genius. He's on par with Howard Stark.
I'm going to say I loved Whitney. I mean, not even just as a villain. I thought Whitney Frost was fantastic. Like, what an amazing foil to Peggy. What an interesting character. And she's based off of Matt. I know you brought it up when we've been talking about it before, but the real-life scientist, the woman who was the actress, and you know,
Eddie Lamar.
Penny, yes.
Lamar. It's just, I mean, what a great, like, I was really, I don't know, everything about that was super interesting, you know, and I'm almost kind of sad that it almost in the end kind of just boiled down that she needed more power, you know. I mean, ideally she needed more power because she wanted to be recognized for who she was, which is actually this really smart, like, intelligent person who's more than just a pretty face. But, you know, like, I mean, she was super neat. Like, I really thought Whitney Frost was one of the best additions to season 2.
I definitely agree. I loved Whitney as a villain, which makes it so much harder to see how like she was so chumped out in the end. I mean, you kind of had like it had to be that way, like considering like how strong, like superpowered she was. Like there was no way they would have taken her down in like a fair fight. But
Right.
it was literal. Okay, just shoot her in the back, and that's it. That's. I know. Fellow non-proer Al has issues with ending fights in Marvel properties.
Yeah.
And in this case, I definitely agree with him that it was such a lame final confrontation.
We'll talk
All
about
the
that at
build-up.
the end. I think we definitely need to talk about whether, because Agent Carter as a series has issues with its climaxes, and I'm sure Al is running down the streets right now screaming. Taylor, did you have a favorite character or something you'd like to bring up? specifically, or are you holding off for the fashion conversation in a bit?
No.
All right, because
I did enjoy the addition of Whitney. I thought she brought something new, different kind of villain than Dottie was in the first season.
Mm-hmm. And speaking of Dottie, thanks for that. Dottie Underwood, Brigitte and Regan. Reagan, maybe? I'm not sure if it's Regan or Reagan. I think it's Regan. Did a fantastic job. She was amazing. And in fact, in terms of character arc, like, I feel like some characters had a lot of strong presence in this season, and others just didn't quite do it. And I think Dottie, for the brief time she was on camera and with us, did really, like, she lended the creep factor and the cool factor, and it was really interesting to see her on screen and dealing with Haley Atwell. I think she really did. She's one of my favorite villains from season 2, which is kind of insane considering the fact that she's sort of like a secondary villain that is also an ally, you know?
She was so good, though.
Also a Dottie fan.
What happened to her in the end? When did we last see her?
She escaped.
She escaped.
Bolted. Yeah.
She disappeared after she shot Mrs. Jarvis.
Oh,
That's
wait.
right.
That's what it was.
Yeah. After that scene with Mrs. Jarvis, she is caught. Oh, not caught. She escapes. I think it's pretty cool. I think she's pretty interesting. There's a few characters I think we should talk about briefly about who may not have done as great a job. Are we okay with that? Or Pope, is that hand up or?
I was gonna say I loved Kurtwood Smith in this season. No, what was his character's name again? Vernon Masters.
Vernon Masters.
Yeah. Just because like he plays such the dick that you just love. Like I appreciate him for essentially playing the same character perpetually, and loving him each way in different ways for each character's subtle nuances.
Right. So just a quick roundup of what we had. I think Sousa had an interesting arc. I think it kind of got spoiled by trying to turn it into a love triangle or whatever with Peggy. I think the same thing may have happened with with Jason Wilkes with Reggie Austin. I feel like he was kind of an interesting scientist. He was super geeky, but also like he was confident enough to ask Peggy out, and he, obviously was going through a lot with the whole being infested by evil magic or whatever the hell that dimensional goop was. I just feel like his character it was very unusual that as soon as the relationship with Peggy got like heated, he became insubstantial. It felt odd. The back and forth between him and Peggy seemed not artificial, but like maybe rushed is the word I'm looking for. It just seemed odd. It just didn't feel like it was paced correctly at all. And then we had a few other. I don't know if anybody could judge. And then I think another big one I want to bring up is Jack Thompson, Chad Michael.
I want to talk about Jack.
All right.
Do or don't.
I do.
All right. So let's talk about him for a minute.
Jack was so frustrating to me because like I actually really like his character, and the arc that they went through in season 1 was like super strong with him. And I just like he just gets fooled so easily in like the first episode of this thing to be like, well, you're a young, ambitious upstart, and I'm clearly the leader of an evil organization.
Yeah.
And they just turn him around so fast, and then they just so that he can kind of play their pawn is just so blind to everything the whole rest of the time. And I don't know, it just feels so one note, And then I'm super sad by the ending because I was hoping, he's back kind of with the good guys. He'll get a chance to maybe turn things around next season if we get it. And then...
Yeah, I think he had a good arc last year, and then he got the same arc this year, only not good.
Yeah.
Well, I think
it's hard to do the same arc again.
Yeah. Arc again, but not with more feeling. Yeah, I agree. I feel kind of like it really felt like we were being tried. They try to lead us a certain way with Jack, but that it was all nothing, it was all misdirection and uninteresting. I was disappointed in that. Anybody have another perspective? Everybody love that?
I mean, I I definitely see where you guys are coming from. I kind of liked what they did with Jack. I now that you guys talk about it, I do kind of see how it's pretty much similar to the arc that he had in season 1. But I thought he still did an okay job. Well, actually, no, I think he did a good job as kind of like being as like antagonist to the team, but kind of still sort of understanding and getting to their side. One thing I did like was like at the end when he was looking through Vernon's stuff and found the pin, and then you wonder what is he going to do with it, and then like right afterwards you see it handed to Peggy, kind of showing that the two of them like, still trust each other.
I was so relieved by that because all I thought when he picked up the pin, I was like, oh no, we're doing this again.
Yeah. I was looking at the clock going, you don't have time. You don't have time to turn yourself around again. This is not going to happen. Do not bank on season 3, man. You're just going to have a cliffhanger where it's sad. Yeah, I do. I feel like some of the characters had super strong arcs. I think Jarvis had a great arc. Peggy did great. I think Whitney did an amazing arc. We'll talk about the ending in a little bit. And I feel like there's a few other characters out there that had like very fun sort of second banana scenes in them. But ultimately, we have to remind ourselves that Agent Carter is an ensemble show, as you could see from the last episode. So, and you kind of miss that because you're so focused in on Peggy and what she does. So let's talk a little bit about the design and production because I think that's fun, and we didn't really get a chance to talk about it. Do we want to? Let's start off with some of the visuals of this show. I love the new bright LA. Pope or James, would you like to take it?
Well, yeah, I was saying, as opposed to, gritty 1940s New York.
40s, yeah.
Yeah, 1940s New York. You get, bright, I guess, stereotype, golden age Hollywood, which everybody seemed to, has this kind of, I don't know, rose-colored look or rose, whatever.
Je ne sais quoi.
Yeah. It's romanticized and everybody seems to love it, and it's kind of fun throwing a character of that era into that, who is kind of just a fish out of water, I feel, but kind of came into her own. And honestly, you could put Peggy Carter anywhere and I'd love it.
Yeah, I think that's true.
There definitely seemed like there was a lot more location work this season. I mean, both shows did location work, obviously, but it might have been more. LA might be more preserved. They might have more things to actually shoot for as compared to New York, where they had to take a street and then put a green screen up in front of a building so they could be like, this building is now in the 1940s. So, yeah, no, it just seemed, something about it felt more tactually real. I felt myself going a little less double takes of, like, oh, this is clearly a set, Not that their sets look good, so it wasn't like a bad thing. But yeah, I really liked it. And as John said, I loved the brightness to it was just, I mean, the first episode almost hurt my eyes. It was so bright. I didn't think I remember mentioning to Katie just how bright it looked.
Well, you were doing a lot of meth at the time.
Yep.
I like how it starts off with the classic Peggy look, and it's Dottie in the costume.
Mm-hmm.
I love that, the trench coat, hat. Any other fashions that we want to pull out in particular for any of our characters this time around?
Well, volunteer.
Okay.
I appreciated that, like, they kept Peggy's kind of traditional colors of, like, navy and red, but they made them more fun this season. Like, she wasn't in her, like, suits all the time. She was in, like, shirts and, like, wide leg pants or dresses, and it kind of gave it a more chill LA feel, but still being Peggy.
Right. That's cool. And I think it's important, like, with comic book characters, to keep them in their, like, their color scheme. And I think that was cool. That's cute that they did that.
I liked Sousa's moved on to Hawaiian shirts. That was a nice touch.
That was good. I do like that. I think that Jarvis is always on point. I really like his
fantastic.
I really like Jarvis, and Anna that's his wife's name, right?
Mm-hmm.
They are really they're an adorable little couple, and I would watch them picnic. I would watch them, a series of them going on holiday. Would be
I just want to be them.
relationship goals. I also had relationship goals for Whitney and her mob boss. So I was thinking like Manfredi, if only someone loved me as much as Manfredi loves Whitney Frost. Or that's horrible. Yeah, but yeah, there is definitely there was a fun vibe that went through this series. There was a couple of really awesome moments where like you like Peggy in the nightclub, in various nightclubs. The one where they try to infiltrate the council and all the ladies come in.
Yeah.
Girls come in. That was, I think, an adorable scene and very funny. But for the most part, there's just like a pretty good focus on character is my favorite part of the show. My second favorite might be the production quality. I just wish we had seen more of classic Hollywood. I wanted to see, like, I guess, Marilyn Monroe or whatever. Like, I wanted to see fake characters walking across screen and interacting with Peggy. I think that's half the fun of doing it in Hollywood, and I can't believe they didn't take advantage of it. Just silence. Everybody's just angrily like...
Yeah, no, I'm surprised that, well, even just because it was a major part, they stuck in that Howard makes movies. You think they would have had him macking it up with, Marilyn or something.
Even casual reference.
Yeah, but, I mean, references, what do we know about filmmaking? It's show, don't tell. Like, we don't need the people saying, like, I ran into Gabe? Ran into Gabe, that famous Hollywood actor. I think I was thinking Abe Vigoda or who was I thinking of? Who plays Rhett Butler?
Clark Gable?
Clark Gable, that's who I was thinking of. Brain fart. But yeah, like, there's no... Just references is not enough. I'd like to have seen actual walk-on, fake, really awkward characters. Have one of them be an Inhuman. How much better would that be if you found that Clark Gable was an Inhuman and his power was being attractive despite clearly not being attractive? Just saying. So that was mean of me.
I think, and this is my question to all of you guys. What do we think the central theme of this season was? I feel like I have a really easy time picking more or less like the strong overarching theme of season 1, but I feel a little muddled on season 2. So who wants to tell me what they thought it was?
Escapism.
What?
Escapism.
Okay.
Well, think about it. Everybody is trying to get away from who they were or where they were that much, Peggy left, her home. Not her home, like she left her base, and Sousa ran away too. Although he ends up running away from, his fiance, and then Dottie is obviously on the run from the law, and
Whitney uses her power to escape
her persona, and to become like a respected scientist rather than just a pretty face. It's I guess also like kind of an escape into a metamorphosis almost.
I think all the things you're describing are linked, but I think it's like power, right? Because escapism would be like if Whitney decided to read novels in an attempt to get out of the fact that she's nothing but a pretty face.
That's also too, definitely.
Yeah. So yeah, I guess power might be it, like
or
breaking out from the bonds.
Back to the vote for the month. Just trying to pull back to March Madness. Power, yeah. By the way, go and vote today, and tomorrow, and every day.
Vote constantly. I don't know. That's a good question, James. I think, I mean, I guess if we're talking about characters who are all striving for power in an attempt to get out of their whatever situation they are. I guess I feel like if we tie it closer to Peggy and that one flashback we get of her realizing what she wants is to actually serve her country and not necessarily get married to the right person. I think that's a much more interesting scene in the context. If you compare up her flashbacks with Whitney's, I think you get an interesting little pattern there. but it is hard to determine, and I think this season kind of suffers from that kind of aimlessness that the show had.
Yeah, I like John's escapism idea though. That was pretty. That's a pretty nice trail. I do like that. But yeah, that was kind of my issue too. I felt like I had a hard point pinning it down, despite the fact that I enjoyed myself.
Do we want to move on to the last episode and how the series wraps up, or do we? Are there other things we want to bring up before we start screaming into our various webcams?
We can just move on to crying and cutting ourselves. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah. So I think I just want to recap season 1. I felt like by the time we got to climax, and I think Matt remembers this, is that I felt, and James, that it really did. It was a little weak. That the climax for season 1 was not my happiness. My favorite. I'm not sure what I feel about season 2 of Peggy Carter. What do you think, Matt?
I mean, like I mentioned before, I think a lot of it was rushed. I mean, maybe it's because of either scheduling or maybe even the ratings. I mean, I know like Shield was actually bumped up to come back earlier. I'm not sure if it was because of some other reason or if like the ABC wasn't that unhappy about the ratings. But I saw like the framework for a good finale. Like there's going to be the big confrontation, all the relationship things are going to be tied up, but then they went straight through everything and didn't have much context of anything. They just like kind of like seat of the pants. Okay, this happened, we're wrapped up. Who knows if we're coming back? Even though they did actually end on a cliffhanger, which was odd. So it's almost even more. It's frustrating in another way than like season 1. Like season 1 is like, oh, they just couldn't stick the landing. But for season 2, I feel like they didn't even have time to stick the landing. They just had to like land belly first. Like they couldn't even get like the landing gear down. They just had to like rush through everything, which was disappointing because I feel like they could have made up for the season 1 drawbacks, but they didn't, or they didn't have the chance to.
Mm.
I feel like it was also a little disappointing in that I feel like originally the series was kind of pitched as being, roots of S.H.I.E.L.D. That's why it was, going to be awesome that it was playing in between the break for S.H.I.E.L.D. And then I feel like you get kind of these offhand, very slight, at best, really references to what could become S.H.I.E.L.D. later on. Whereas, again, I feel like we're missing maybe what we were promised in the first place.
Yeah, I feel because that first Agent Carter standalone short was about her being like the director of S.H.I.E.L.D., we've never quite filled that gap in and how she gets there. And that's always been a problem. But again, Katie, Taylor, James, what do you guys think about the way the season wrapped up?
Are we all on the same page? I know Taylor alluded to it earlier that the dark matter is the stuff from S.H.I.E.L.D. that we're dealing with now. The goopy stuff.
I do not think that. I'm not sure about that. What do you think it is exactly?
Portal to another universe?
Yeah,
you think it's the pillar?
Yeah.
I don't think so. I think it's something different. I think it behaves in a similar visual matter than what made up the pillar, which was just a portal to another universe, and it behaves similar to Gravitron's goop that we never have seen again. But in each one of those, Gravitron is a specific thing; it controls gravity, and that portal thing is just a doorway. This thing is supposed to be some sort of like cancer that infects an entire universe or whatever, and destroys it, replaces it with itself. I think it's separate, but I don't know.
I was gonna say, isn't it actually supposed to be a reference to something in Doctor Strange?
I think it might be. I've heard this before too.
Yeah, like the Dark Force, I think it's called. But it does. I mean, it could possibly be the obelisks. I mean, it does act a lot like that. I just didn't think about that.
I don't think might not be the obelisk, but I think it's actually. Maybe it was confirmed, but I think it's actually a reference to that one one-off episode about in S.H.I.E.L.D. where they had to deal with the creepy stalker guy. who kept on disappearing in and out of existence.
Matt, you think everything is a reference to that episode.
We do. We definitely think everything is that.
I mean, like, I'm pretty sure, like, they might have name dropped Isodyne as, like, the place that lady was working at.
Roxxon was, in fact, the source of the dark matter and the nuclear fusion material. But, so apparently, most of what I've seen is, and I forgot the word for the dark matter, but apparently it is somehow tied to Doctor Strange.
Oh, okay.
Which is interesting in a way, but it's, again, a very weak... I feel like at this point in the Marvel Universe, you should really be backing up your already existing stuff than trying to like lay the groundwork for new stuff, especially on Agent Carter, which may not have as strong an audience as you would like.
I think saying even laying the groundwork is probably too strong. They probably thought it was a neat thing to do and a neat element to do, and they were just like, oh, can it be this? And they're like, no, you can't touch that. Oh, well, can it be this? Yeah, sure, Doctor Strange is coming up. That's something he might deal with. Sure, have at it.
All right. Yeah, maybe. So beyond all the metaphysics, this is my issue is with the first season of Agent Carter. I don't know if Peggy had enough agency at the end of the series. I don't know if she was able to stop enough of the things that were happening in that last episode. It's a little dim for me now. This season, I was looking like sternly for it, and I don't know. There's a great scene where everybody volunteers to sacrifice themselves into the portal of evil, but I think that was good. I think it was pretty genuine. Everybody had a reason for throwing themselves into the portal at the end of the world. And, you know, Peggy did get a chance to do something. She jumped on that rope to save Sousa, even though Sousa was the one who went to try to turn off the machine, and it was, in fact, Jarvis and Howard's car were the reasons that the thing all broke down. So it's a weird way where at this point in the run of Agent Carter, which is maybe the end, I'm like, all right, it's an ensemble show. Everybody had to join together and help save the day. I kind of would have preferred, again, if Peggy Carter would have done more to, like, wrap it all up and finish it and save the day. Instead, she's just everybody's favorite person, and she's a cool character, but I don't know if she really deserves the limelight. And I think it's a hole in the story, and it's kind of annoying. Bad news. James.
I feel like they don't. For me, I think the biggest thing was that they never really kind of finished up that foilness between her and Whitney. You know what I mean? Like, I was hoping that there would be some direct confrontation between the two of them, but I don't. She's not even there really when they fire off the gamma ray cannon or whatever, the gamma ray machine to knock the stuff out of her.
They transfer her villainness to like an existential thing.
Yeah.
Shoot it with a car.
Yeah. And then and then at the end she's crazy, or at least we presume that she's, for now not in her right mind. And she's, that kind of keeps her and Peggy from ever really connecting on that level that I thought was so well laid out in the episode where they paralleled their two stories. I don't know. I think that was my big problem for me. I mean, as we've mentioned here, I feel like Agent Carter, for whatever reason, has a way of like wrongly focusing the final episodes.
Yeah. Kind of odd, especially because we pretty much got confirmation that Whitney Frost is Madame Mask, an Iron Man villain who, has a decent amount of backstory to her. You'd feel like they would have wrapped this up in a way that was a little bit more satisfying than having the source of her power and possibly of her derangement be exploded via gamma bomb. But yeah, overall, it's still kind of fun. I don't know. Do we have any last thoughts about this? We have to wrap up because we are over time.
I love it when Jarvis hits Frost with the car.
Just hit somebody with the car. Yeah, she'll be fine.
It was a Whedon moment. It was a very Whedon moment.
She's a 2-time Emmy winner.
Absolutely.
2-time Oscar winner.
Oscar winner. I'm sorry. Emmys, but This is,
Yeah,
we're talking about
that's a
TV,
hint.
but they were in the movies.
Oh my God.
That's a hint, James. You're hinting that Carter should get an Emmy.
Are we getting played off now?
I think we are.
I hear
Okay.
music.
But anybody else want to say anything to wrap up? We got an indefinite amount of time.
I'd love to.
Shield comes back next week or this week.
True.
That's true.
Nobody's coming back.
Cool.
Katie, last thoughts on Carter?
Sousa and Nurse forever.
Yes, please. Season three, just for them bending their relationship. Taylor. Oh, that's adorable.
Peggy and Steve!
Oh, Peggy and Steve for life. Pope, you have anything stupid to say?
Just, I hope they continue having fun with characters we know can't die, even though it lead us to believe that they might.
Matt?
I'm surprised we didn't talk about the musical scene because that scene was great.
That's what I forgot to bring up. When I said before my favorite part was the character, second part was production, I was supposed to segue into musical. I don't know why I was just rambling. If you don't know why we're rambling, leave a comment to this video and subscribe to our channel. And fight me on things, because apparently Katie wants to.
I do.
Two men talking about their women's...
I think you have a hegemonic view of society, and you need to work on that.
No, I'm the opposite. I'm saying that guys shouldn't be talking about their lady.
They can, without being sexual with someone else's wife. They
Listen,
can care.
we're gonna have our own hangout party after this. James, say something.
Something.
I'm sorry. We're gone. We're done. See you next time. The thing that we're doing is every week. It's the Hangout TV party. We made it to Bob. Goodbye, everybody.
Thanks, God.